Will cities of the future float? Well, they mean at sea. There's some lovely Google floating cities of the ocean Google images here. Um, I'll get to why in a second. Let's just have a look at some of these pictures. And very, very beautiful. Um, and there are plans afoot to make them. Let's have a look here. This is from the New York Times. As climate change accelerates, floating cities look less of a pipe dream. There's the artist's rendition. In these, they're actually connected to the mainland, but other floating cities are envisioned to be, I mean, cruiser ships are nothing but floating cities, aren't they? Cruise ships. If you have the money, you could stay on one all year round. They very rarely run into trouble. Occasionally. That's a nice design. That's a beautiful design for a big city. Feasible? Well, yes, it can be done, I guess. I mean, we have oil rigs out at sea that are in all sorts of weathers, and as I said, those are floating cities already. It's just, I guess, it's a nice, neat little idea. Let's have a look at the story here. Hong Kong, what you might call it a Noah's Ark for an era of melting polar ice sheets, an audacious plan to respond to climate change by building a city of floating islands in the South Pacific is moving forward, with the government of French Polynesia agreeing to consider hosting the islands in a tropical lagoon. This is the Seasteading Institute. These are the guys that are putting it forward, I believe. This is their idea again. For 5 years, the Seasteading Institute has been conducting research into the potential for permanent, innovative communities floating at sea. We are now able to apply this foundation of knowledge and our network towards an actual design, along with additional efforts to determine specific needs and desires of potential customers and to select a practical location for what would become the world's first cities. Before you say, well, who's going to go and live on these things? These ideas are not new. They've been put forward for a while, and people behind them the most are, of course, the wealthy. Because you can do business in international waters that are not subject to the tax regime of any particular country. So they're essentially tax-free havens. That's so that's one of the main reasons why these things probably will happen. This is the British Daily Mail. Will cities of the future float? 167 million pound project using concrete platforms could be home to 300 people by 2020. A group of biologists, nautical engineers and biologists, backed by PayPal founder Peter Thiel, plans on building a floating city or seashed by 2020. City would be built on concrete platforms, but no location has been decided. Aim is to try new modes of government and energy production, for example, in a bid to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. Apparently £109 million is available. That's going to cost more than £109 million, but I mean, I guess it's feasible. It's certainly doable. It would be. I mean, I can't remember the Call of Duty game, but that's what they're thinking about there. But there was a Call of Duty game where you attacked this floating city that looked very much like that or that, and you went in there and did this mission. It was very much like that. And you did this mission inside there, and it was a play area for the rich. And it had swimming pools and hotels and all of that, and it's quite a nice idea, I guess. I don't suppose it's a solution to global warming. It might be a rich person's dream holiday location if it's executed well, and who's to say that in the future, or probably even now, that could be done now, I would imagine. But you're talking 100 billion, more probably, um, judging by the size of it. Pretty free infrastructure. I wouldn't know. Perhaps that's a ridiculous guess. You'd have to look at how oil rigs are built and their stability. We can build things in the middle of the North Sea that are anchored to the sea floor, but these things apparently float. So it's an interesting concept for sure. And yeah, that's very pleasant, isn't it? Those are nice looking little things. But I know what I heard about when I read about this years ago, that the main idea was that you could get things that floated. Looks like a James Bond villain's pad, doesn't it? You could get these things that floated that were basically like big ships. And you could use them. You'd be in international waters, and it was basically the main cell was it be a tax haven, and you'd go from port to port. You'd travel around, and you'd have they'd be at port for 5 days, and they'd go off for another 20, and you travel around the most exotic locations in the world, but most of the time would be in international waters, so that people that are earning vast amounts of money wouldn't have to pay tax. It's a beautiful idea. It's a nice story, and I kind of hope actually that whoops, what does it say here? I kind of hope that it comes that it comes true. It would be a nice thing. So floating cities in the ocean. Bring them on, I say. Bring them on.